Now for question 30. The quadratic formula. The famous quadratic formula. You use the quadratic formula to find your zeros, your solutions, your roots, your x-intercepts, wherever it crosses the x-axis. And quadratics usually have either two solutions, one solution, or no solutions. So it could cross the x-axis twice, or cross it once, or not cross it at all. So the quadratic formula tells us those things if it has two solutions, one solution, or no solution. And you use the quadratic formula when you cannot factor, or even when you can factor. It works both ways. The quadratic formula always works. So the way you remember the quadratic formula, you do not have to memorize it. It is on the formula chart. It's the second to the last one. Or there's a song that goes, x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So it goes like Pop Goes the Weasel. Okay, but in order for you to use the quadratic formula, it has to be in standard form. It needs to be in this form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. They gave it to us right now in vertex form, kind of vertex form. So we need to make it into this form. So that's going to take a while to do. So we're going to do it here on the side. So here's what I have, 2x minus 7, x minus 7. The reason I'm writing it twice is because it's squared equals 32. Okay, so then from here, we're going to do FOIL. So we do x times x, that's x squared. X times negative 7, that's negative 7x. Negative 7 times x, negative 7x. Negative 7 times negative 7, positive 49. And this is inside the parentheses because we still have a 2 on the outside, equals 32. We combine like terms inside the parentheses. These two are like terms. So I have 2x squared minus 14x plus 49 equals 32. Then we do the distributive property. We multiply the 2 to everything. Yeah, I know it takes a while. 2x squared minus 14 times 2 is 28x. Plus 49 times 2 is 98. Then we want to make it equal to 0 because remember we want it in this form. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Always make it equal to 0. So we are going to subtract 32. Subtract 32. Now I have 2x squared minus 28x plus 66 equals 0. Now from here I have a equals 2, b equals negative 28, and c equals 66 because I already have it in standard form. I have a, b, c, and then the number equals 0. So now from here we can use the quadratic formula. Okay. So using this, we're going to plug it into the quadratic formula. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we're going to plug in the numbers there. Sorry if I'm moving the camera a lot. So here I have negative, and then the b is also negative, so we have to put both. Negative 28 plus or minus the square root b squared, put it in parentheses, because if you do not put it in the parentheses, the calculator is going to give you a a different sign as an answer. So I'll show you right now what I mean. Minus 4, A is 2, C is 66, all over 2A. If you notice, I'm putting everything in parentheses. You need to put it in parentheses so that way you don't mess up on your signs. It's very important that you put parentheses because the calculator will just do whatever you tell it to do. But if you put it in parentheses, it will give you the correct signs. So here, what happens? Two negatives become a positive. So you have 28 plus or minus. We're going to figure out what the inside of the square root is. All over 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, so we're going to plug in the discriminant. This is called the discriminant, by the way. The discriminant tells you whether it has 2 zeros, 1 0, or no zeros. So we're going to plug in the discriminant. Negative 28 squared. I'm going to plug it in exactly the way it looks with the parentheses. I'm trying to get the glare out. Trying to see if you can see it. Okay. So I want you to see how I input it. I input it exactly the way it looks, and then I press enter. 256. Okay. So that's what we got. 256. That's my discriminant. Because the discriminant is bigger than 1, bigger than 0, that means you're going to have 2 solutions. So here I wanted to show you what would happen if you don't put parentheses on the 28 squared. Watch. You see how you end up with a completely different answer. Because here what it's doing 28 squared and then making it a negative. On this one, it's doing negative 28 times negative 28, so you end up with a positive number. Here, you end up with a negative number. So it's very important that you put it in parentheses. So that's what I wanted to show you, that you get a different answer when you don't put it in parentheses. So make sure you put it in parentheses. Okay, so my discriminant, let's go back here. I got 256. So my discriminant is bigger than 0, so that means I'm going to have 2 solutions. So we're going to get the square root of 256. 16. So I have 28 plus or minus 16 divided by 4. Now here are your 2 answers. You have 28 plus 16, then divided by 4. And then you have 28 minus 16, then divided by 4. So we're first going to add the top, 28 plus 16. You get 44. And then divided by 4, and you get 11. So that's my first 0. Here I have 28 minus 16. You can do that in your head. It's 12. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So those are my 2 zeros. So what that means is that's where the parabola crosses the x-axis. It crosses at 3 and 11. So if I were to graph here, at 3, it would cross, and at 11, it would cross. Here, my vertex was actually, if we would have to make it equal to 0, so we would do minus 32, and we would have 7. Remember, we get the opposite sign. 7, negative 32. So your vertex would be in the middle, because that's your 3, that's your 11. In the middle of those two is 7. 7, because look, spaces 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember, parabolas have to be symmetrical, so that's 7, and then it was negative 32. So way down here at negative 32 is the vertex, and your parabola is going up. Sorry, I have to move the camera so I can draw my parabola. So it would look something like that. And it's going up because it is a positive number. There you go. And now let me go back over here very quickly because there is something I need to go over. If you try and do this entire thing all at once in the calculator, you have to be careful, because watch what happens if you don't do it correctly. So here I put it the way it looks, 28 plus 6 divided by 4. That's a mistake a lot of kids do, and you end up with a completely different answer. You end up with 32 instead of 11. Why? Because you did not put parentheses first. Remember, here, according to the calculator, it's going to do PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So it's going to do division before it does adding. So it's doing 16 divided by 4, which is 4. 28 plus 4 is 32. If you're going to put it all in the calculator, you need to make sure you put it in parentheses. So where you do 28 plus 16, you want to add first, then divide it by 4. And there we get the 11, which is what we got, the 11. So just be careful the way you put it in the calculator. You need to add first. If you're going to add first, you better put parentheses, so that way the calculator knows that you're going to add or subtract first. Here's my second one. 28 minus 16 divided by 4. And we get the 3. Because if you don't put parentheses, you're going to get the wrong answer, like this one. Here I did not put parentheses. I got 24. So instead of getting a 3. So just make sure you do the top first and then the bottom. So you can also do it the long way, where you do 28 plus 16, enter, and then divide by 4, 11. That's the safest way if you want to do it that way.